Keep watching JustProfessor here. You read between the lines when there is nothing there. Someone says something simple, something direct, something clear. But you do not take it at face value. You think there is a hidden message, a deeper meaning, something they are not saying out loud. So you analyze their words, you look for clues. You create a whole story in your head about what they really meant. And then you react to that story, not to what they actually said, but to what you think they were trying to say. And most of the time, you are completely wrong. Because there was no hidden message. They just said what they meant. But your brain cannot accept that. It needs more. It needs layers. It needs meaning. And when it cannot find it, it creates it. This is called Grecian-Maxim bias. And it is ruining your communication without you realizing it. Here is how it works. When people talk, your brain assumes they are following certain unspoken rules. One of those rules is that people say exactly what they need to say. Not more, not less. Just enough to get their point across. So when someone says something that seems too simple or too vague, your brain thinks they must be leaving something out on purpose. That they are hinting at something. That they expect you to fill in the gaps. And your brain does exactly that. It fills in those gaps with assumptions. With interpretations. With meanings that were never intended. And you treat those assumptions as facts. This is why Grecian-Maxim bias is so dangerous. It makes you react to things people never said. It makes you upset about messages they never sent. It makes you create problems that do not exist. Because you are not listening to their words. You are listening to what you think their words mean. And those two things are not the same. Most people do not realize how often they do this. They think they are being perceptive. They think they are reading social cues. They think they are understanding subtext. But they are not. They are making things up. And then getting mad when reality does not match their made-up story. Think about what happens when someone gives you a short answer. You ask them how they are doing. They say fine. And instead of accepting that, you think they said fine, but they do not sound fine. They must be upset. They must not want to talk. They must be mad at me. So you push. You ask what is wrong. You get anxious. You create tension. And they look at you confused because they were actually fine. They just answered your question. But you could not accept a simple answer. You needed it to mean more. Or someone cancels plans. They say something came up. And instead of believing them, you think, what does that mean? What really came up? Are they avoiding me? Did I do something wrong? Do they not want to be friends anymore? So you spiral. You overthink. You get hurt. And when you see them next, you act weird. You are cold. You are distant. And they have no idea why. Because from their perspective, they just had to cancel plans. Nothing deeper, but you made it deeper. You added layers that were not there. This is what Grecian-Maxim bias does. It makes you assume that communication is always layered. That people always mean more than they say, that every message has a hidden meaning. And when you operate on that assumption, you stop hearing what people actually tell you. You only hear what you think they are telling you. Now think about how this creates conflict. You interpret someone's tone as attitude when they were just tired. You interpret their silence as anger when they were just thinking. You interpret their choice of words as passive-aggressive when they were just being direct. And because you interpret it that way, you respond to it that way. You get defensive. You get upset. You shut down. And the other person is blindsided because they were not being passive-aggressive. They were not being cold. They were just communicating normally. But you read meaning into it that was not there. And here is the worst part. When you confront them about it, they deny it. They say, that is not what I meant. I was just saying what I said, and you do not believe them. You think they are lying. You think they are backtracking. You think they are trying to cover up what they really meant. So the conflict gets worse. Because you are convinced there was a hidden message. And they are frustrated because there was not. But your brain will not let it go. It needs the hidden meaning to be real. Because if it is not real, that means you created a problem out of nothing. And admitting that feels worse than being wrong about what someone meant. This is the trap. Grecian-Maxim bias makes you distrust direct communication. When someone is clear, you think they are being vague. When someone is honest, you think they are hiding something. When someone says exactly what they mean, you think they mean something else. And that makes real communication impossible. Because no matter what they say, you are going to interpret it through your own lens. And your lens is broken. Think about how exhausting this is for the people around you. They say something simple. And you turn it into an investigation. They try to be clear. And you accuse them of being unclear. They tell you the truth, and you search for lies. So they stop trying. They stop being open. They stop sharing. Because no matter what they say, you are going to twist it into something it is not. And they are tired of defending themselves against meanings they never intended. This is what happens when you assume communication is always indirect. You make people responsible for things they did not say. You hold them accountable for interpretations they did not create. You get upset about subtext that only exists in your head. And you damage relationships because you refuse to accept that sometimes people just mean what they say. This means Grisium maxim bias is not about being smart. It is about being paranoid. You think you are reading between the lines. But most of the time, there is nothing between the lines. You think you are catching hidden meanings. But most of the time, there are no hidden meanings. You think you are being perceptive. But most of the time, you are being suspicious. And that suspicion ruins trust. Because trust requires accepting that people are being honest, and you do not. You always assume there is more, that they are holding back, that they are saying one thing but meaning another. And that assumption makes connection impossible. So here's what you need to understand. Most communication is not layered. Most people say what they mean. And when they do not, it is usually obvious. You do not need to search for hidden messages in every conversation. You do not need to analyze every word choice. You do not need to create meaning where none exists. You just need to listen, actually listen, to the words people say, not to the story you create about what those words might secretly mean. When someone says they are fine, believe them unless they give you a real reason not to. When someone cancels plans, accept their reason unless they show a pattern of flaking. When someone is direct, do not assume they are being passive-aggressive. Just take their words at face value. And if you are confused, ask. Do not assume. Do not interpret. Do not fill in gaps with your own insecurities. Just ask, what did you mean by that? Then believe their answer. Grisium maxim bias makes you think that everyone is speaking in code. But they are not. Most people are just trying to communicate, and they are doing it directly. The only reason it feels indirect is because you keep adding layers that do not exist. You keep searching for subtext that is not there. You keep assuming complexity when the truth is simple. Stop making communication harder than it needs to be. Stop reading meanings into things that were never meant. Stop creating problems by interpreting honesty as dishonesty. And start accepting that most of the time, people mean exactly what they say. Nothing more, nothing less, just what they said. And once you accept that, communication becomes easier. Relationships become clearer. And you stop fighting battles that never needed to happen? Subscribe if you want to stop misunderstanding everyone around you.